The smell of sweet perfume still haunts his mind as he thinks about the girl he left behind, and he wonders why am I lonely?
The first ray of sunlight peeks over the apotheosis of St. Louis. A car has parked all night in front of the museum. It's running smoothly, and no one is around. Hello to all, and welcome to the Ear-Wicker podcast. Follow along with our host, Vince Corkery, as he discusses a broad range of musical topics, with interviews of top players, club owners, producers, and engineers that make it all happen. Your virtual backstage pass. Remember to like and subscribe to this podcast, and of course, it's free.
And he wonders why am I lonely?
Hello to all, and welcome to Ear-Wicker Podcast. And today we have a very special guest. I would say electronics engineer, possibly.
Maybe, yeah.
AV.
Yeah, AV, Pro AV is my
Okay.
family's life work.
All right. This is Brian Gaze. And Brian, thank you so much for coming over. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks
taking
for
the
having
time,
Yeah.
And Brian is designing guitar and bass pickups.
Yeah.
And I have been lucky enough to hear some of them, and definitely you have to hear his story, and and hopefully hear his pickups.
Yeah.
So, Brian, what started this fascination?
Yeah. Well, growing up in a family where we're all just engineering types, if you will, it's something that as a young kid, I always was twisting knobs and pushing buttons, and I lived. My family's business started as a Pro AV business, and they had a hi-fi component to it. So we did home theaters. We did their company actually started by designing discotheques for the Marriott chain. So yeah, they did the one up at the airport here in St. Louis, and it paid for itself in I think 2 weekends or something like that. And they said, okay, do them all. And so yeah, it was a really strange way of getting into the Pro AV business, I suppose. But
What year was it? You're talking 70s?
Yeah,
maybe?
the mid 70s. So I think that all started about 75, 76, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been sorting through all the old family photos and stuff on that, and I'm just kind of getting a bigger picture of what I wasn't here for, that kind of thing.
Right.
So anyway, on my parents' side, it was that, and then my dad's brother Skip. Was a guitar repairman here in town, and
many years.
For many years. So between the two of them, I had tried to play other instruments, and I was given an ultimatum that I could play either guitar or bass. Oh, because nothing was sticking. Oh. So I don't know why, but I chose guitar, and the rest is history. So. Making pickups started. I built my first guitar with Skip.
Now, Skip, just talk a little bit about Skip, because Skip was really the go-to.
Yeah. So my uncle Skip was he had a guitar repair shop here in Maplewood, but originally he started repairing instruments. In the 60s, one day he had a Telecaster, an earlier Telecaster, and I think my dad was in the Army at the time, so this had been 68, 69, somewhere around there. Skip was still in high school. Dad had gotten drafted and went to Germany and did radio repair for the Army. He came back, and I think Skip had a Telecaster, and it needed fretwork or something. And the guy, he took it in, and the guy ripped the fingerboard off and just replaced it with some crappy fingerboard with frets already on it, that kind of thing. And Skip came back furious, and he looked at my dad and said, "Well, I could have done a better job." And the story went, my dad looked at him and says, "Well, why don't you?" And that was kind of the seed that started it, I think. And both of them definitely agreed that was the story. So, it may have been embellished. I know our family loved to do that sort of thing, but in general, somebody ruined one of his favorite things, and he said, "Well, I want to see if I can do better than that guy." So yeah, that was how he started to do it. He was Albert King's guitar tech for a while. He's worked on lots and lots of people. Instruments over
there's
the years.
a story of Eric Clapton.
Yeah, I've got photos. Eric, he was on tour in the late '70s and was playing at the Stratford Inn. Can you believe that? Yeah. So there's photos of Blackie and Brownie and Skip's doing work on it. A funny aside, I was on my Pro AV career. It took me out to Phoenix, Arizona for a company yearly trip kind of thing. And my cousin lives out in Phoenix, and there's a museum out there called the Music Instrument Museum, the MIM. And they had one of those people, I guess, lend the instruments out for an exhibit, and it was one of those special exhibits, and Brownie was in it. So I went. We went.
Brownie is a Stratocaster.
Yeah, it was his Sunburst Strat, and so anyway, it was hanging in the room, and my cousin and I walk in, and this lady comes up, she's all excited, and she goes, "That's Eric Clapton's guitar," and I said, "Yeah, I've got pictures of it in pieces," and she was completely shocked that I said that, but I did. So I snapped some photos of it. I come back, and Skip was alive at the time. This was I don't know, about 5 years ago, somewhere around there. Right before COVID, actually. And I come back, I show him the pictures. He goes, "Look at that." I said, "What?" This little grin of appreciation. He says, "Yep, still where I said it." And he knew exactly the little bits, because I snapped a bunch of close-up pictures to just show him some different things, because he hadn't been close to it in a while. And he goes, there it is. Yeah. It was just really, so
he saw his work.
He saw his work. Yeah. And it was pretty cool that sort of thing. So over the years, lots and lots of those stories. And so I do get off track sometimes, but
no,
in essence, Skip and I built a guitar for me. He had just moved into the Maplewood shop, so this is 1995. I was learning how to play guitar at that point, and I had a high school Battle of the Bands event that we did, and at the time it was a friend of mine sat behind me in math class, and we struck up an interest in the same kind of music. We started a band, and we played this Battle of the Bands. Well, Skip lent us his 58 Strat, his 59 410 Bassman, and a bunch of his custom P bass that he had built,
right.
and so we ended up having to play those instruments, because I had my first guitar and a small little Valco 5-watt amp. And it wasn't big enough for the act, if you would. So I borrowed his Strat, and I really liked it, because my first guitar was a Squier Bullet, and it didn't have a trem. It was a fixed bridge. And I thought, wow, that's the sound. There it is.
Mm.
And so over the years, I had seen a bunch of Skip's guitars, and I said, "Hey, how about can we build a Strat?" Because that's what I wanted. So
okay.
yeah, so we built a blue Strat out of parts, and from that point on, I started to go, I'm just not hearing what I want to hear. And eventually, he had a set of his hand-wound pickups, and I asked him about, how'd you get this sound, and it's the ones that were in there forever. So
the original.
Yeah. So that was how I got into pickup winding, because I saw I couldn't find the sound I was looking for, and so he made it. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And like I said, being engineering types, all of us, we always want to know how something was made. And I just kept at it and kept at it.
And I know you've done a lot of research on the pickups, and you're developing your own.
Yeah.
And you're developing for guitar and bass, and is that like mostly for Fender and Gibson, or
just out of simplicity, anything that kind of runs the standard shape gamut, so single coils, humbuckers, P90s, things like that, where the parts are readily available. That's obviously the lowest barrier to entry. So they were kind of the first things to go. But I have a CNC machine, so I can truly cut anything I need. Yeah, so I do custom things for people.
And when you say cut, you mean like cut?
I can literally cut the flat work to make the bobbins.
Okay, so we're talking, we're deep into the pickup here. So can you explain in layman's terms how the pickups
how they work?
Yeah. And why are there better ones than...
Oh, sure. So in essence, I've been professionally winding pickups now for a decade. It started before then, but professionally doing it, now I'm on my 10th year. So, so that's been something that was kind of fun. A pickup in simplistic terms is a coil of wire with a magnetic field that then feeds an amplifier, right? It's the same principle as a microphone and even a speaker, right? So there's a magnetic field, and the disturbance of that field excites the coil. That coil then sends a signal off to be amplified, and that's what a pickup is. So just like a microphone, like what we're talking into, or just like a speaker, what people will be listening to us on, right? Just a different way of getting it. And the pickup is optimized to pick up the movement of metal strings. That's the only difference. So
the wave,
just the way it's designed, you're not moving an air gap like we're doing with a microphone. You're moving a metal string, and that movement of metal is then exciting the coil. Over the little magnets. Exactly. And so our breath into this microphone is exciting an element and moving it physically. That little movement is then causing a pulse to be recorded. So it's just the same, and same opposite direction of speaker. If you get a speaker, you plug it into a mic jack, and you yell into it, you'll get something in your system. It may not sound right, but it's the same principle, just in reverse.
Yeah.
So they're all optimized for their purpose, and guitar pickups are designed generally to see the metal strings moving, right? That's why you hear people go, "Hey, this pickup is microphonic." Those coils are actually moving, and that's why you can talk into them like a microphone, and so that's why people wax pot them or lacquer them to get rid of that.
I see.
It's becoming more like this than the guitar pickup.
So it's picking up the strings because it's moving.
You're changing a field, and that variance of change is what you hear.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's good. Now, you said you've been winding for 10 years or building pickups for 10 years.
For people for 10 years.
And why are your pickups, in your opinion, better than your standard,
Than the stuff I could, that I could
your
buy.
commercial pickup?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if better's the term that I would use. I would say they're honed for what I want to hear. Every pickup. I was actually just on a forum this morning looking through some posts, and yesterday there was a video of a pretty well-known YouTuber down in Atlanta. He's got a studio, and Paul Reed Smith was at the studio. He also had a pretty popular studio guitarist in the video. And what they were doing is they're comparing vintage instruments and then his new Asian-made SE Silver Sky and another guitar. That basically, the premise is always, we're going to take this guitar right out of the box, and we're going to show you how good it is right out of the box. And I've seen enough of these sorts of videos for 30 years. Ads, forum posts, videos. I've seen all this information put out there that, my new such and such is an exacting clone of something.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And you know, being at a guitar shop every weekend, or, I was there. It was my second home, right? And I was always there. And I hear real high caliber vintage instruments, and I hear really high caliber reissues of those instruments, and I hear handmade other things, and you kind of get this really big picture of what's going on, and then you start to go, I like this, or I like that. And I really quickly, I figured out I just didn't like the way my Blue Strat was sounding. And the very first pickups we put in there were Fender. They were your standard 50s style. I don't know. I don't think they were Fat 50s, but it was their reissue pickups.
Okay.
And we bought 3 of them. Skip always said, we're going to get 3 bridge pickups. That's the blend, right?
Okay.
and so we put those in, and it just didn't sound the way I was, Skip's 58 sounded one way, and mine's a maple neck and alder body. They're about the same weight. And I'm going, wait a minute, this doesn't sound like that one, and why? And then Skip and I would talk about it. We said, well, this is this, and these magnets were this, and the wire's different now than this, and this is this. And we would always just kind of have these conversations about, why does that do that? And why does this sound like this? And eventually I went through about 10 different sets of pickups. You go to Seymour, you go to DiMarzio. I tried, their Blue Velvet pickups. We tried a bunch of stuff. Yeah. And even some vintage pickups didn't sound good in the guitar, right? And that's when that's a real head scratcher, because you're going, wait a minute, I thought vintage was supposed to sound great, right? And it turned out that not all pickups sound good in all instruments, and that was a pretty big lesson to learn. Yeah. So back to the video. This video, they bring out 4 vintage Strats, so various vintage Strats, right? One's a 50s, a real 50s. One's a real 60s. One's a mutt, parts of vintage instruments, and then and one's there were 4 different ones, and the premise was they were supposed to pick their favorite and then put it up against these Asian instruments that are $500. So you got $20,000 instrument over here, and you have $500 instrument over there, and I'm gonna say that my $500 one sounds no discernible difference to it or this $20,000 instrument, which is complete bunk.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bunk.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, we're gonna wow you with this really nice amplifier and this vintage cabinet, and because of all this painting that they've done to set up the work, they distract you from the fact that the distortion that you're hearing, the way they've set everything up, is masking a bunch of sonic qualities.
Okay. Yeah.
And this happens all the time. I've
That's
seen,
a good catch, though.
I mean, yeah, and it's only because I study this do I see this repeating thing happening in the marketplace, right? And I have no dreams of being the next Seymour or the next DiMarzio, or I'm just a little guy here in St. Louis making things that make me happy. And when I hear somebody come back and say, your pickups transform my instrument, and it's just what I wanted. That's why I make the pickups. That feeling right there is that's what drives me.
Yeah,
because it drives me on my own instruments, right? So for me to build something that makes you happy with the result, that's I get goosebumps.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And all those lessons taught me how to discern the fact from fiction.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
So I hear it all the time. Well, my guitar has a rosewood neck, so it's not going to be as bright as your maple neck Strat that you're doing. That's incorrect. I have some rosewood Strats that are way brighter than my... There's people put a lot of flat opinion that they hear and conjecture. They put this on as total fact when it's not.
Yeah,
I had to learn all of that, and then I had to learn all about how to make coils. Right.
Ooh, yeah.
So to get to the start of where I started learning coils, Skip's winder was a 50s erector set and my grandmother's old sewing machine motor.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what he wound his pickups on. And his little setup, it had a little foot controller that he could use. He had his little lights set up, and he had his wire and mounting method. And he understood how to make his machine work for him. So I go and I get a little machine. I do something similar. I found a little cheap Harbor Freight lathe, and I hot rodded that. And there were different ways you could adjust the thing to slow it down, because you don't want it to turn 15,000 RPM, or you might have a problem, right? Yeah. So I hot rodded it to slow it down, and I stuck some tape on, and I put the first bobbin on, and I broke the wire. I put the next one on, and I get about a couple hundred winds in, and I think, right? But fast forward, and I wind my first coil using the teaching that Skip gave me over the years, right? I wanted to see if I could do it. And I build this little test guitar, and I put this pickup in, and it makes noises, and all right. Now we're on to something, right? It wasn't the greatest sounding pickup, but it was a sounding pickup. It made noise, right? And it was just really something.
Yeah.
It hooked me, and I don't know why. It's like, why do people make microphones, or why? It's just something calls to you.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously have a drive to make a really good, solid sounding.
Yeah,
for the right reason.
Well,
pickup.
and make it because not. I don't make clones of anything. But I find it very difficult to talk to people without telling them it's from an era, or it's inspired by something. because so many people are used to, they're used to buying things that way. Like, oh, it's a reissue of a 52 Telecaster. These are 52 Telecaster pickups. No, they're not. They're 2025 pickups, built to try to replicate a sonic signature of that era. If you haven't ever heard a real 52, would you know? No. Right. So it's you have to have a way to talk about them. And it's been a very difficult thing for me to wrap my head around, because I don't want to build a clone of anything. I don't set out to replicate 1957 Stratocaster pickups or 1964 or 1992. I try to hear something and improve upon it from what's missing. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Well, no, it does. I think you mentioned one time when I was hanging around in the shop, you said everybody plays different.
They do.
And
right?
so how do you find all the sonic qualities for that person?
Right. And the big kicker is you might think that this is the right set to get the sound they want, and it may turn out to be just awful. Sometimes it happens where so all the studying I've done and all the failures I've had and all the successes that I've come across from those failures have basically just given me a really good dictionary of possible outcomes. Right? So I go, this bass weighs about X. It unplugged, it kind of sounds like this. It's got these features to it. And right now, these pickups sound like this. So I have a good idea that this set is the right direction. But there are some times where it's a head scratcher. Where that's not as good as I thought it might be. And then you put that in your little dictionary and you remember it for later. So I've just built this really good portfolio of knowledge to say, to basically have a better recommendation system.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's incredible.
It's taken a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah.
It's it was funny. I was talking with some other builders in town not too long ago, and they sell pickups, they sell guitars, and we were just talking about pickups, and the level of interest and knowledge I have versus other people is personal to me, right? I wanted to know all these sets of details. Other winders don't care. It's just not that's not what they want. They find a good sound. It's a sound that works for them, and that there's nothing wrong with that. Right. It's just different.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's costs involved.
Well, sure.
I mean, it's just
how much terrifically expensive.
Yeah. I mean, look at all the time you put in, and look at it. I mean, it's so specific to each person.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. So that's why I said earlier, I don't know if it's better than everybody else's. It's just different.
Yeah.
And what I found is that people like my different. Right.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
And I learned in that time I was with them, I could teach them my entire process, and they still wouldn't get the sound that I get. And that's what I've learned is it's intensely it is my sound. My pickups all just sound like they came from me.
Well, that's the artistic part of it, right?
Right.
I mean, there's the technical side, and then there's the human artistic. What you're putting into it.
Right. So all of this is to say, after a decade of professionally doing it, I think I can finally now say I understand all of this.
Well, that's big. Yeah.
Which was really big.
Yeah. Well, where can one experience your pickups?
Well, my uncle's shop is on Sutton Boulevard. It was originally called Gay's Instrument Repair. And unfortunately, like I said, Skip passed away a few years back.
Right.
But John Ferber, who's been with Skip since 1995 at
Right.
that shop,
Yeah.
he's still running it strong. And
Great, yeah.
And so JF Guitar Works
Yes.
is the new name, and I'm there now throughout the week making pickups. And so-
guitar picks and bass pickups.
yeah, guitar and bass. And if you got an interesting violin or whatever else, I'll happily look at things.
Oh,
but
nice. Yeah.
but yeah, pickups in general, I wind there. I do wind stuff at my house. I have a different set of machines that I can do other things
okay.
on. So I kind of just split my time between the two places.
So can someone, can they go to JF Guitar Works and listen to your pickups?
Yeah, I've got
As-
demo instruments there.
Oh,
I've got
okay.
basses and guitars that you can pull off the wall. I've got different arrays of amps so people can
Excellent, yeah.
try them. And then I've got people making videos for me. So I have a website. It's
Oh, yeah, let's hear that.
GoezeCustom.com, and you spell it GOEZ custom.com.
Excellent.
Yeah, we pronounce our name different than it looks.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
But yeah, my website's up, and soon I'll be selling off of the website.
Okay. Are you on any social media or anything?
Yeah, I've got Instagram, and I'm building a YouTube site page for the demo videos,
excellent,
and then a Facebook page. So
Great.
the Instagram and Facebook are kind of tied together, so I can hit both with one post, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So
Wow, yeah.
those are the places you can look at stuff and hopefully hear it.
Yeah, well, I hope, a lot of people check them out. I mean, I was fortunate enough to hear a set of your bass pickups, and I really thought they sounded great.
Yeah. Thank you.
When you say sonic quality, that's exactly I think the term that if people don't understand, that's what they're looking for, even though they don't know what that is.
Yeah. It's one of the things that started really early with my search was that I found a lot of pickups I was buying were really heavily spiked in a sonic direction, if that makes sense. Real heavy in the mids or low mids or real bright. You kind of hear everybody's approach, and for the guitar I was trying to solve, that they didn't work, right? And so one of the things Skip used to do was he used to tap the magnets down on pickups that came in. And the thing is that the vintage reissues, they try to be super precise to the heritage. We don't play the same type of strings that they played back then, and we don't do a lot of the stuff, and so it sonically sounds different. So he would adjust the magnets to kind of fix that point, if you will, and he would do things like he would pick 3 bridge pickups instead of buying the set that they would build, or he would do things a little differently to put his sonic touches that he wanted to hear out of factory made pickups. And there were plenty of good offerings out there, and with subtle adjustments he could get the sounds. I have to work with modern magnets and modern wire. So my whole design principle was to say, what can I do to get the most out of my current, pieces? Because I'm not big enough to go and order my own custom magnets, and I'm not big enough to order my wire in thousands and thousands and thousands of rolls. So I had to design around what I could get. And I worked very hard to get the most out of what I have. And through that, every one of my pickups, I try to get them to be as balanced as possible, right? Because I feel like that gives your guitar the most level playing field to work from.
Yes.
So that's really what I work to do. And a lot of people have commented on, oh, wow, this is really, really balanced. And that was my goal,
excellent,
right?
yeah.
So you have knobs on your amps and you have knobs on your guitars. Why not use them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Try to
Try
to make it work so that
right.
that
You can get everything out of those pots.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so the bass pickups, especially, that was a lot of the feedback I was getting is wow, I didn't realize how hyped the pickups were in this range. And now I changed the whole way I work on my amp, and it's been a lot of research there. I as I mentioned, I picked guitar. I didn't know a lot about basses, so it was a fast learning curve, And so apply the knowledge to guitars into the bass world and tweak for that purpose. Because the bass pickups are, it seems like the bass community, it seems like they don't have as many options as the guitar community. And the options that the guitar pickup makers make often are really close to the bass pickups. Does that make sense? They don't adjust for the specific instrument as much as
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me it was okay. Well, I guess I have to do the exact same process I did on guitar, but just do it in the bass world, and then some things apply, but some things don't. And then understand why. So that's been a lot of what I've been learning these days. It's they're designed specifically for bass. They're not just my guitar pickups.
Right, I see.
Modified to be bigger.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, that's great. So again, where can one test these?
So JF Guitar Works in Maplewood.
Okay.
Or like I said, I've got people playing, and we'll be putting demo videos on YouTube and Instagram.
Is there a name for the pickups? Do you have a
Gaze Custom Pickups?
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Great.
So that's
we'll be looking for that.
Yeah,
man.
for sure.
Well, listen, man, this is, I know we could probably talk about this for a while because I know how deep you've gone into this world, which is great for all of the musicians out there, really. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, you bet.
And hopefully they will catch on. And
yeah.
I know for the bass pickups, they really caught my attention. So
thank you.
Yeah, keep going, please.
Yeah. Well, I've now switched to make this my full-time obsession. So,
excellent.
I think we're seeing traction, and it's been a wonderful experience.
All right. And your website one more time?
Gaze, GOEZ Custom.com.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for coming by and explaining your really cool pickups. And I hope a lot of people check them out.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. And we will see you at the next gig.
All right.
Remember to like and subscribe to this podcast, and we'll see you backstage.